Hello, I'm Shawn Comboy. I'm an executive coach and Hive 80 member. Now, as an executive coach, one of my passions is helping career-minded women thrive in the workplace, a workplace that, interestingly, is not designed for women. Now, I'm not talking about the fact that it's not conducive for women who want to have children or who are raising young families, which it also isn't. What I'm talking about is the fact that the workplace is generally biased towards men, which creates unique challenges for women. Now, in my work in this space, I've developed a three-prong approach that helps women thrive in the workplace and seeks to eventually affect real change that will make it a more friendly place for everyone. My approach, understand, grow, and change, first seeks to help women understand what the specific workplace challenges are in order to put themselves in the best position to successfully navigate them. Next, it helps women grow in their skill set, in their confidence, in their leadership, and ultimately in their careers despite these challenges. And finally, together with the women and men that I support, it strives to change the workplace into one that both facilitates diversity and also benefits from it. So we're going to talk about all three over the course of the next few episodes. But today I want to talk about the first one, understand, and introduce the idea that in order for women to thrive, we first need to understand the bias and the challenges that exist. So let's get started. Now, when I think of workplace gender bias, I think of it in two broad categories, systemic and behavioral. So let's talk first about systemic. Systemic for me refers to the elements of today's workplace that are systemically biased towards men. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'll do that by sharing what some of those challenges are and the impact that they have on women's careers. First, it's no secret that in most organizations, women aren't well represented in leadership roles. Now, the consequence of that is twofold. First, young women don't have role models to aspire to. And second, women and men often present the same desired leadership traits differently. When a hiring panel, for example, isn't gender diverse, it often simply fails to recognize those traits in the woman, which puts her at a disadvantage. And I want to take this a step further. Gender bias doesn't just exist with men. It exists with all of us, women and men alike. As a woman, I also tend to recognize those traits more readily in men than I do in women. So in our example, in addition to having a diverse hiring panel to start with, it's also really important that the panel members show up with an awareness of their bias and with an intention to overcome it. Next, likability versus leadership. The workplace imposes a narrow ideal on the way women have to act so that they fit into the prototype of what it takes to be a successful leader and still remain likable. Let me give you an example. When a man acts assertively, he's seen as demonstrating leadership, which has a positive impact on his career. When a woman acts assertively, she's often seen as harsh and unbending, which can have the opposite effect on her career. Potential versus accomplishments. Women are more likely to be judged based on their accomplishments, while men are judged based on potential. This has an impact on women's careers as it makes them less likely than men to advance early on. Women face obstacles to senior leadership. This is frankly a statistical reality. Further, for those women who do succeed, they're often appointed to HR and customer service roles versus the more critical functions of sales and operations. This has the effect of limiting the advancement opportunities for women. Finally, despite what organizations say, gender diversity is not seen as a priority, specifically in terms of the resources and the effort that they're willing to dedicate in order to make material changes. Meaning, while gender diversity often makes an appearance as an initiative or internal campaign, meaningful actions to institute KPIs, to train managers to develop female talent, and provide coaching resources to young women rarely make it to the table. Okay, so we've talked about systemic bias. Now let's take a look at behavioral bias. Behavioral bias are centered around key differences in the way men and women behave and process information that are both a result of the systemic bias and can also contribute to it. Let me show you what I mean. We'll start with portraying confidence. Now notice that I said portraying confidence versus having confidence, meaning studies show that men are more likely than women to raise their hand when they're uncertain. Women seem to be answering a different question, however, than men. Consider this example. When considering whether they'll apply for a job, women often hear, "Do you possess 100% of the skill set necessary to do this role?" Men, on the other hand, hear, "Do you believe you can develop into this role?" Or even, "Would you like to give this role a shot?" Men are therefore much more likely than women to even apply for a job that they're both equally qualified for. Next, studies show that men place a much higher priority on networking than women, and at a younger age. Further, men's network compositions are much more likely to include leader and senior leadership positions. By virtue of having more senior members in their network and earlier on in their careers, men are in a much better position than their female counterparts to advance. Finally, women face an erosion of ambition. The toll of workplace challenges for women is the eventual erosion of ambition, which is unfortunate, as by this time, which is normally mid-career, organizations have made a considerable investment in their development, and they miss out on being able to take advantage of it and often end up losing them altogether from their workforce. This contributes even further to the lack of females in senior leadership roles. As a woman in the corporate world for over 30 years, I've experienced all of these. But this isn't just my personal experience. McKinsey & Company did a study a few years ago called Women in the Workplace, which highlights these and other challenges that women face in corporate America today. There's also a number of great articles that build upon that, like one by Lala Daskal. You can find links to both in the episode notes. Look, it's not a surprise that the workplace has evolved to cater to those that have historically made up its majority, in this case, men. If women were in the majority, I'm certain it would be biased the other way. However, statistics show, and most of us agree, that the more diverse the workforce, the better organizations perform, dramatically better. Ultimately, organizations need to change the fabric of their workforce and their leadership makeup if they want to maximize their own performance. Unfortunately, I think we're still a ways out. In the meantime, and as a means to get there, part of my work as an executive coach is focused on first helping women understand what the challenges are, and then on the things that they can do without sacrificing who they are to develop and succeed as leaders, to thrive, so that they can, together with men, make the changes necessary to ensure that true diversity exists in the workplace. Join me next time, and I'll share how coaching can play a critical role to women thriving in the workforce in my second element, grow. And check out the episode notes for links to both the McKinsey study and a great article by Lala Daskal to learn more about workplace challenges for women.